How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Junk Food Zombie channel. I got a little technical video for you here today. I got one of these Magpul ASAP single point sling plates for the back of the receiver. It goes here. I got a single point sling recently, as you can see here, and I wasn't happy with the way it mounted up here. The rifle hangs too low, even with the sling short, so I decided I wanted to use one of these and use a proper single point sling mount. So what you need to do for this is remove the buffer tube here. So what you're going to need is a spanner wrench, or if you have an armorer's tool, it's even better. I don't have one of these. There's no way to get a torque wrench on this, so I'm going to be using a little bit of Loctite and German torque. And if you don't know what German torque is, it's Guten tight. First thing you gotta do, might as well just separate the upper and lower receivers. Get those apart. Pretty much everyone knows how to do that who owns an AR, but if you don't, we'll just put that to the side. And that'll leave you with your lower. Now, you'll want to press this pin here, retainer pin for your buffer tube. You can use your finger or whatever you want to use and just push that down. Get your buffer spring out of there. We'll put that on the side here and not put it on our tablecloth because it's a little oily. Alright. Now, if you'll see here, where the edge of the buffer tube is, let me see if there's something I can point with. The edge of the buffer tube just goes over the side of this little retaining pin there. I'm forgetting the proper name for it like an idiot. But that's how far we'll have to put it back in. Now, when you take this off, there's a spring under this, so you'll want to make sure that you hold this down, otherwise it'll go flying and you'll never find it. Or you might, but who wants to look for it, right? Okay, so you'll take your spanner wrench, and you'll get it on the castle nut, and you'll turn it and loosen it. I loosened it before to make it a little easier. It's going to take a little doing, but especially if your castle nut was staked, which this one really wasn't. This is a Bushmaster, and they don't really stake their castle nuts very well. So if it isn't staked, it's actually a benefit. It's a lot easier to get this off. And you'll loosen that up, and you'll watch this retaining plate. Oh, almost lost it there. This plate here, because you have your spring here for the detent that holds your pin in here. So you just want to make sure that that doesn't fling out on you. And then you'll get this loosened up. You can also take your buttstock off if you want. You do that by pulling up on here and then sliding it off. If that makes it any easier for you, you don't have to. But once you get that, you'll slide this plate back. And you can spin it out of the way and keep that spring from flying out. You'll take that pin out, and your detent will be in there as well. Would you look at that? Huh. That shouldn't look like that. Right, your detent may or may not fall out of there, but keep an eye out for it. And then put your thumb on that pin, and you can unscrew your buffer tube. Now you'll let this out slowly, and you can take that out. If you want, you can leave it in there if you like, but we'll take it out so we don't lose it. We'll put it right here with this spring, which definitely doesn't look like it should. We're gonna have to do something about that in the future and replace that. That spring shouldn't be bent like that. Okay, so now what you do is you've got this old plate off. That is on the end of my buffer tube right now, and you'll remove that. You see, that's the old plate there. And you'll take the new Magpul one, and it's made very similar to this. It's got a little bump here, just like that does, and that's going to fit right in that hole on the plate. And what you need to do is, well, for the sake of the video, I'm going to just put this spring back in. I'm not sure how that end of it got kind of messed up, but For the sake of doing the video, I'm going to put it back in to show you how to reinstall it, and then I'll replace that at a later time. Put that spring back in there, and then you'll take this new sling plate, and that'll go on here. Now this sling comes with these. As you'll see, the old plate has a little bump here that fits into this groove on your buffer tube. Now, this comes with two sizes, one for commercial and one for mil-spec tubes. So you make sure you use the right size. I believe the bigger one is for the mil-spec tubes. And the smaller one, the larger one I believe is for the commercial tubes, and the smaller one is for the mil-spec tubes. So you'll get that out. And that's going to end up going in here and taking the place of that little nub on there. And the mil-spec ones are just smaller. They barely stick up. This is commercial, so I believe the larger one is the one we'll be using. So that's going to go on your buffer tube. And you will just start the buffer tube in place. Make sure you don't cross thread that. And this has these little tabs that'll fit on either side of the receiver. And also make sure that this spring stays to the side where it belongs. Slide that on there. Once you got that on there, you can start screwing in your buffer tube. Now we're getting to the point where it's getting close to the edge of that hole, where this pin goes, where this retainer is. You're going to pop that in there and push it down all the way, and then keep screwing your buffer tube in. Until it goes just over the back of that. And you're going to, once it just goes over the back of that, you're just going to turn this until it lines up the way it's supposed to. You have to get this in that groove now. Make sure everything's lined up. What we'll try to do is get it to stand up in that groove and just kind of slide it in. It's a tight fit, and it's not that easy. Of course, I could probably be doing something wrong here, and there's an easier way of doing this. But maybe I'm just not the brightest guy in the world. There we go. And then slide it in. Alright, then if you have a spanner wrench or an armorer's tool that you can use a torque wrench with, you torque it down to the proper specs, which is 40 inch-pounds or something like that. But I don't have the ability to do that, so I'm just going to throw a little Loctite on the threads. And like I said before, use my German torque on it and get it good and tight. So we'll get that on there. Yeah, I know it's not the proper way, yada yada yada. You get your spanner wrench on there. And if you have a block, like with a vise, you can use that to hold this. It's a little difficult to do where I have good lighting. And you'll just tighten that up. Now we'll get that nice and tight. Okay. Now you can stake your castle nut, which if you take a punch, you see the little holes on the side of the castle nut. There's one there and there's one here. And there's one here. In this case, there's three. This is the only one I'd be able to do, but you'll take a punch right here, and you would knock some of the material from this sling plate into that hole, and that will keep your castle nut from loosening. Okay, so now that that's done, you're pretty much done. You'll go ahead and put your buttstock back on. And you're good to go. That's all there is to it. It's relatively simple. You put your buffer, spring and buffer back in. Most of you guys already know how to do this, but that just goes back in. and that pin holds it in place. And this, so that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. Magpul makes a good product. A lot of thought goes into what they do. They take things like this and say, hey, well, you know, let's make it so we can reach both sides without having to unhook, and you can transition left to right, and it's not an issue. They're a good company. They stand by their beliefs. They're moving out of Colorado because of all the legislation. They really believe in the Second Amendment. They believe in supporting shooters and the citizens of this country, and they're a good company. They believe in what they sell. They make good quality products, and they're a good business ethically. So if you can support them, it's always good to support companies like that. So if you guys enjoyed that, like the video down below and comment if you have any comments. Anything you'd like to say is cool. Keep it civil. Everybody be cool to each other. And if you're a beginner and you wanted to do something like this and you're a little worried about it being difficult, it's not difficult at all. It's a simple thing to do. So don't be scared. I hope this helped you out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.